Hello beautiful humans, I'm Brynn, a teenager passionate about veganism and sustainability. Today I will be talking about the infamous vegan diet. So I am 15 years old and vegan, and none of my family is vegan, so I'm the only vegan in the house, or even vegetarian or anything of that matter. So I'll just prove to you that I'm not coming from a household that has the vegetarian vegan ideals. I'm gonna just take you a little walk through my family, and I will show you that I am the only veggie. Alright, this is my mom, and I'm just gonna be asking her a couple questions. She doesn't know what I'm gonna ask her, but here we go. Alright, first question. Are you vegan?
No.
Are you vegetarian?
No.
Why?
I love steak, and I like chicken, and I like to eat meat.
Perfect.
And fish. I think I could be pescatarian.
Alright.
But there's no way I could be vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
But vegan, I feel like, is so much harder.
This is my dad. I'm just gonna ask him a couple questions. Alright, first one. Are you vegan?
No.
Are you vegetarian?
No.
Why?
Because I like meat.
This is my brother, Crew. Okay, so he doesn't know why I have him here, but I'm just gonna ask him a couple questions. So, Crew.
Q&A.
Are you vegan?
No.
Are you vegetarian?
No.
Why?
Because meat is good. Please don't kick me.
There it is. Alright, so now that you've had a little glimpse into what my life is like, now I will show you how I personally convinced my parents to let me go vegan, and what tips and tricks I would give you to aid in convincing your parents to let you go vegan. So this first thing is not even just selective to people dependent on other living situations or parents or stuff like that, and this really can apply to anyone, in that taking it slow is the best route. If you just try to just jump in head first and then you're just vegan, I mean, you can, but it's going to be a lot harder to maintain it, and you might get a little burnt out of the diet, if that makes sense, and then you might want to just quit because it may seem a little hard. So maybe if you want to just start cutting out things one by one, like, you know, red meats and chicken and fish and things like that, and like one by one, and then you go to dairy, and up until you reach the point of vegetarianism or veganism that you want. And the idea that I always want to tell people about is, if there's like one or two foods that are holding you back from becoming vegan or vegetarian, honestly, just go vegan or vegetarian except for those foods. I mean, it's not like an all or nothing thing. Like, any part of it that you know that you can get rid of and help in the sustainability movement is great. So I'm not asking you to go completely vegetarian or vegan if there's just one thing, like cheese. Like, you cannot live without cheese. That's okay. You can be vegetarian, vegan with cheese, and that's completely okay. And nobody should, I'm not gonna speak for everybody in the world, but if anybody questions you, that's really not their business, and they shouldn't, because you are just living your life doing what you can for the earth. But for me personally, I went vegetarian first, and then I was a lacto-ovo vegetarian, which is, I still drink milk and had dairy, and then I ate eggs as well, and then I cut out eggs. And then January 2020, I became vegan. The next thing, and possibly one of the biggest things in starting a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, is to do your research. And there are obviously certain parts of nutrition that everybody needs, but the amount that you will need certain minerals and things like that will heavily depend on your lifestyle. Like, if you are involved in sports, you may need more protein or carbs, especially if you're going like a really big runner and you just go for it. I could never, but go you. It just really depends on your lifestyle. I do exercise. I'm not in sports. I do like aerial yoga and I bike. Sometimes I run, but I live in Texas, so sometimes it gets way too hot for me to run. But the most important thing is finding the proper nutrition for your body and your lifestyle. This one might seem a little bit obvious, but part of doing your research is knowing which foods aren't and are vegan. And this is important especially if you have parents that are going to be shopping for you at any point. Then you need to be able to tell them, hey, that brand isn't this and I can't have that. So you need to be aware of what ingredients that goes into things you won't be able to eat. And also the last part of doing your research is finding vegan foods that are going to fit your budget. So a lot of people have a perception that being vegan or having a vegetarian diet is going to be way more expensive because they're focusing on all like the bougie vegan organic brands, when in reality you can buy just raw foods like fruits and vegetables and make your own food, and there's plenty of less expensive vegan brands out there, but the media and everybody only sees like the expensive bougie brands, and that's kind of what gives it that expensive stigma. Alright, so the next thing is leading up to the time when you are actually going to ask them or pitch the idea to them is to actually before that be mentioning it. And you don't have to mention veganism directly as long as they may be familiar with the sustainability movement. You could mention that. You could talk about other sustainability ideals like low waste and climate change, and that will just kind of plant the seed because it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to say yes and allow you to become vegan if you just randomly come down one day and you're like, I want to be vegan. And they're going to be like, what? Where did this even come from? And they're going to just assume that it's like a phase you're going through, or it's popular, it's a trend, and you're not going to stick with it, and they're going to tell you no. So for like a little bit, you can just mention it and, you know, just plant the seed before you go in and try to convince them. All right, so now we finally come to the part of trying to actually convince your parents to let you go vegan. And so this part is knowing what your parents are going to listen to most, or knowing your strengths. So if you were a good conversationalist, or every time you ask for something and you start a conversation with them, like a mature conversation, they always seem to be more inclined to say yes and whatnot, you might want to just go ahead and just sit down and have a conversation. I personally like to write things out before I go, so anytime I really try to like ask my parents for anything, I either like write an essay or do a PowerPoint, and it's just easier for me to just write everything out, and then I can like plug in the research and I don't have to recall from memory. That's just what's easier for me. For requesting to go vegan, I made a Google slide and presented it to them. And I started off by talking about the New Year's resolutions I wanted to make in 2020, because it was the right before 2020 New Year's, and I thought, hey, this is a great time. Making sure that the timing is right is also a very important thing, but I decided to do it then. And then I eventually led to the topic of wanting to go vegan, because at that point I had already been vegetarian, so I'd kind of already been like there, and they knew that I really cared about sustainability and things like that. And so I had all of my research in there, and I had the compromises I was willing to make, which I will talk about in the next point. But I had a Google slide and I presented it to them, so I kind of used writing and conversationalism and just kind of like put it together to create a Google slide to ask them. All right, so the next thing is be willing to make compromises or make agreements with your parents regarding a vegan lifestyle, because it's going to be really difficult if you just say, hey, I want to go vegan, you're going to buy all my vegan food, you're going to prepare my meals, you know, but they have to be vegan and so I can eat them, and that's just going to be very overwhelming for your parents, especially if there's other diets in the house. So it's just going to be, in my household at least, that would just not work if I just was like, yeah, you're going to buy everything and you'll just know, and it would just not work. So what I did is I tried to make a compromise with them. So the agreements that I made was saying that I could prepare my own food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's including school lunches, weekend lunches, and I even made this giant recipe list, so if they were going grocery shopping and I couldn't come, I could just show them the recipe list and they could just go through the ingredients and pick up a couple things, and usually before they go grocery shopping they'll ask me if there's anything that I need for that. And I also was already in the low waste movement at this point, and I said that I could put that a little bit on the back burner, I could reel that back in just in case, so I could at least get used to the vegan diet before trying to make it vegan and zero waste. So I said that if there's vegan food that comes in packaging, I'm not going to freak out about it. So the next thing is persistence, and I know I'm not telling you that you need to annoy your parents all the time if they say no the first time around. What I am saying is that you should be able to prove to them that this is something that you actually want. It's not just a phase or, you know, a trend that you want to hop onto that you're going to be done with in a month, and then it's just, you got to be able to show them that this is something that you truly care about and you want to continue to work to get this. But again, not saying just annoy your parents all the time, because that would probably make them want to say no a lot because they associate the idea with being annoyed. But definitely bring it up to them time to time, even after they say no, and just, you know, show them that you are willing to work for it and you actually do want to become vegan. So say you talk to your parents and you can't go vegan because of reasons out of your control, such as finances, living situations, things like that. And I just want to let you know that that is completely okay. Just remember that you're doing your best, and you're doing a whole lot just by looking into the movement and watching this video, and I think that's great. And I know there's other ways to cut down on your environmental impact in other forms other than dietary lifestyle, so don't beat yourself down about it. If it's something out of your control, then it's something out of your control, and I want you to know that you are doing your best, and I love you for doing your best and even considering this movement at all. All right, last thing, I just want to say good luck to all of my aspiring veggies, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, I guess that's it. Bye.